Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Hello, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf, Menachos. Nunvav, we are holding 9 lines off the top of the Amud. Ella Oisai. So back to that pasuk yesterday, which was discussing the karma chatas that a nasi will bring upon sinning, and there's an extra word in that pasuk. It says v'shachat Oisai. So you shecht it in the location of the oila, which is in the north of the Azar, and that's Safan. What's the purpose of the word oisai? The pasuk can do without it. You shecht the animal, of course. What's the point of the word oisai, it? Ella, says the Gemara, I'll tell you what oisai is coming to teach. Ella, rather, oisai ton Safan. Veina sheichet oimed betzafan. The point is that the oisai, the carbon itself, needs to be located in the tzafan of the Azara during shechita, but the sheichet himself can be standing on the other side with a long knife and reaching over to do the shechita from his side of the Azara. He need not be standing. The person need not be standing in tzafan. Only oisai, the animal itself. Well, says the Gemara, that's already known from elsewhere. We have a different source for that. The Rabbi Achia Nafka, that's learned from Rabbi Achia, the son, Rabbi Achia Aimer. This is another pasuk which mentions oisai, v'shachat oisai, al yarach hamizbeach tzafayna. And this teaches us once again that the only the animal itself, the korban, must be in tzafah, but not the person. Mata maloymar. What's the message in the extra word oisai? This is a pasuk by a korban oila. The answer is, as we explained, because we find, in contrast to the kohen doing the kabbalah, receiving the blood of a korban, that the person doing the act of kabbalah also must be standing in tzafin. She'omer b'tzafin, must be standing in tzafin, u'makabal b'tzafin, doing the kabbalah there. It's not only is the act of Kabbalah and Tzafan, the person has to be standing fully in Tzafan as well. And this is based on the word V'lokach, because by Kabbalah it says V'lokach. The Gemara in Zvachim learns V'lokach can be read like Lo Yikach. V'lokach, he himself must be standing. He has to position himself in Tzafan as well. But V'im Amad B'darim, should he be standing on the other side? V'kibo b'tzafan, and he extends his hands and does Kabbalah and Tzafan, pasla, it doesn't work. So perhaps the same applies to Shechita. Yochel af zeh kain, perhaps by Shechita as well. Not only does the Shechita itself take place in Tzafan, but the person doing the Shechita has to be standing fully in Tzafan as well. Is that true? Hamalayma comes to pasuk and says, V'shachat oisai. Oisai, meaning the korban itself needs to be by Tzafan during the Shechita, but not the sheichet himself. It doesn't have to be standing in tzafin. So clearly this is learned from a different source. So back to our question by the Sa'ir of Nasi, why the word oisa? What is it coming to exclude? What is it coming to teach? Ella, rather, it's coming as follows. It's coming to teach oisa b'tzafin. Only an animal chatas must be in tzafin. Ve'ein ben oif b'tzafin, but a bird, a chatas bird, an oila bird, need not have its malika, which is the removal of its head, done in tzafin. There's no tzafin requirement. So oisa is specific to korbanos of animals and not birds. Perhaps I would think that even birds are required to be in tzafin. Let's say, because it can be derived through a kal v'chomer, through logic. If an animal needs tzafin, certainly a bird. Why? Because a bird has an element of stringency that an animal doesn't have. Uma ben soin, even a ben soin, a sheep, whatever, right? The Torah does not commit a kohen for the shechita, meaning even a non-kohen azar can do the shechita. Still, we have a tzafin requirement, kavalei tzafin, but I've certainly a bird, which is sort of a notch higher in a sense, shekavalei kohen, that the Torah requires a kohen to do the malika. Ein adin shenikbalei tzafin. wouldn't it make sense that safin certainly is a requirement in this case? If the shechita of an animal needs safin, certainly the malika of a bird, which is a corresponding act, needs safin. And that would explain why we need the word oisei to say no. In contrast to your logic, you don't need safin by a bird. Why would I even think to compare a bird to an animal carbon? Malban soin shekan kavale kli. An animal carbon is different, it's more strict, because it needs a kli for the shechita, and you need to have a knife. That's why it has that extra stringency of tzafin, but a bird which doesn't have a kli requirement certainly would not need tzafin. So we don't need the oisei to exclude the bird. It's self-excluded. Ella rather, the word oisei is coming to tell you like this: oisei b'tzafin vein pesach b'tzafin. Only, a chatos and oila needs to have tzafin, but not a carbon pesach. A carbon pesach can be shechted anywhere in the azara, like any other kachim kalam, the lighter karbanis. Well, that we already know as well. Pesach midrab Eliezer ben Yaakov nafka. We have a different source for this. You have a brayso of Eliezer ben Yaakov. Pesach ton safin. Perhaps you have to do the shechita on a carbon pesach specifically in safin. Why would I say so? But they know. Based on Kavachomer, I would think so. Uma oila shlei kavala zman b'shchitata, because even a covered oila which does not have, despite the fact that it doesn't have a set time for the shchita, you can bring it any time throughout the year. Kavala tzafain, still we're committed to the tzafain. Certainly a carbon pesach shekavala zman l'shchitata, which has a very specific and defined zman, erev pesach in the afternoon. So perhaps it's obvious that it has the same strictness as the oila. Einadin, of course, shekavala tzafin. Of course, the shchita needs to be in tzafain. Not so simple, says the Gemara. You're comparing a pesach to an oila. Mala oila shkein kalak. Oila has an advantage. It's fully incinerated on the mizbeach, which a pesach doesn't have. Okay, so we can't learn from the oila bechatas. Perhaps we can derive the tzafain for the pesach from the tzafain of chatas. Right, based on the same type of analogy. Chatas, which doesn't have a defined time throughout the year, right, needs to have safin. Certainly a pesach, which is a more limited, restricted, exclusive carbon, of course it needs safin. And you can't say, well, the chatas is burnt in the mizbeach. No, the chatas is eaten by the kayan. Well, again, you can't compare mal chatas shkem mechaperes al chayav ekrisus. Chatas as an advantage over a pesach. It covers, it atones, it's mechaper for very severe kares violations, which a pesach doesn't have. How could you compare? Okay, you're right. Let's compare the pesach to something else. May asham. We'll learn from the asham, which doesn't atone for kares, averes, and needs safin. So perhaps the pesach as well, and certainly the pesach, which is a more exclusive carbon, as we explained. Well, again, you can't compare. Mala Asham Shekin Kachi Kadashim. It's not a fair comparison. A Pesach is Kachim Kalim, is of the lower category of Karbanis, as opposed to Asham, which is Kachi Kachim. So you can't learn directly from Pesach from Oila, or Pesach from Chatas, or Pesach from Asham. Each one has a distinction which that Pesach doesn't have. Mikuli Nami. And even if we'll try to sort of bind together all three Karbanis and make sort of a joint learning, a joint source from Oila, Chatas, and Asham, that they all require tzafin. So certainly the carbon Pesach itself, and you can't say, well, Pesach has the Oila is fully incinerated because the Chatas doesn't have it. You can't say Chatas has kares because the Asham. So you can't sort of point a specific feature within each individual carbon and attribute the tzafin requirement to that, because the other carbon doesn't have that and still needs tzafin. So perhaps by joining them together, we can produce and derive that Pesach also needs tzafin. No, once again, there's a commonality between all three, which Pesach doesn't have. Shkein Kachi Kadosh, and all three Kachi Kadosh, which Pesach isn't. So really back to the original question. We had that extra word oisai. Only this needs tzafin, but something else doesn't. What's that something else? Is it a bird? Obviously, a bird is different. Doesn't need a kli for shchita. Is it carbon pesach? Why would I think it needs tzafin? Says, well, let's go back to what we started with today. Oisa says that the carbon needs to be in tzafin, but not the sheikh, not the person. And your question was, we have a different source of rachia, right? A rachia. Let's go back to the original suggestion that Oisei was teaching us Oisei b'tzafin ve'in ha'shechet b'tzafin. Only the animal needs to be in tzafin, not the person. And as per your question, Midrab Achia Nafko, that's been learned from Achia's halacha. Teretz is. Rabbi Achia wasn't teaching that. Let's relearn Rabbi Achia's statement. The Rabbi Achia, Lav l'muti sheichet b'tzafin udasa. Rabbi Achia was not coming to instruct that a sheichet need not be standing in tzafin. That wasn't his point. That's learned from Oisei. The extra word Oisei, which is said by the Soir of the Nasi, only the animal needs to be in tzafin, not the person. Rabbi Achia was coming to teach us something else. Elochik Amar, rather he was saying like this. The fact that the Torah has to spell out Oisei to teach only the korban is tzafin, not the person. Ein ha'shechet b'tzafin. What does that tell us? That only by shchita do we have that leeway. Shchita is not really an avoida, as we learned back in Menachos Vacham. Ein ha'shechet b'tzafin. But let's imply, let's infer. If he's involved in a real avoida, like Kabbalah, aval mekabel b'tzafin. But when it comes to the next step, which is Kabbalah, which is a true avoida, which is labeled as avoida, there it's different. There, it's not enough that the animal and his blood is sitting in tzafin. The person doing the Kabbalah has to be standing in tzafin as well. So again, from the fact that Torah has to tell you that the sheichet need not be standing with tzafin, what does that tell you? Only the sheichet is on the other side, but the makabel needs to be in tzafin. Ask the Gemara. Well, this halacha that a makabel has to be standing in tzafin, that's learned from velokach, as we explained before. The word velokach is learned this way, that it's as though it says lo yikach, he takes himself. He himself has to be positioned in tzafin, as we learned back in Menachos Vacham. We already have a source for that. Milokach, vilokach nafka. The extra vav of vilokach tells you lo yikach. He himself must be positioned in tzafin. So we already have a source for that. Lokach v'lokach le'mashmel Rabbi Achai doesn't have this drasha v'lokach v'lokach. He doesn't dwell on the vav, so he needs a different source, and this is the source. Again, it's back to the pasuk by the Soir Nasi. This Oisei, the animal has to be in tzafin, but not the sheichet. But yes, the makabel. Continues the Gemara. V'chayv al yishasa v'al arichasa v'al afiyasa. So this is a mincha which turned chametz. Mishnah says, any involvement, lisha, kneading that dough, aricha, forming the breads, baking the bread, each one generates its own violation and its own lav. Amra papa. Afa legishtayim. So let's say a kohen baked a mincha which had turned chametz. He gets twice malchus. Why? Even though he just did one step, he did the baking. Why two punishments? Achas al arichasa, one for completing the formation. The afiyah sort of confirms the aricha. Aricha is the forming, the shaping of the dough, and the afiyah is the conclusion of that process. So he's liable for concluding the aricha, v'achas al afiyasa, and secondly for baking it. So each one is a separate violation. Ask the Gemara. But yesterday we learned that you only get one malchus for baking. Each one's a separate independent act, which is with its own violation, its own liability. For Armas, you told me yesterday, ma afiyah miyuchadesh, shimas. What's unique about baking? Shimas yechidi. It is a distinct stage. V'chayavan olev pnei atzmi. You chayav for the baking on its own. So it seems like it's only one chayav. Like Hashi answers like this: Hada rechu ba'afahu. That Bryce is speaking that he did the aricha and the afiyah. So of course, in this case, he's chayiv for the aricha, he's chayiv separate for the afiyah. You can't make him liable twice for baking, one as the baking and one as concluding the aricha, because you're giving him a separate malchus for the aricha on its own. So he's getting punished for that. That's being addressed separately. So in this case, certainly the afiyah only generates one malchus. But today we're talking Hada Arich Chavrei. Reuven did the aricha. V'yavli he gave it to Shimon to bake. So now Shimon did two things wrong. He baked and he concluded, he confirmed, and he completed the aricha process as well. So he gets twice malchus. Tanur Rabban. Okay, so on account of this discussion, where we learned that one can be chayiv, multiple violations, multiple, chiyuvim and punishments through with the same material, taking the same dough and kneading it, and aricha and afiyah generates multiple violations. Tanar Rabbanan, here comes a similar type of halacha regarding a carbon, let's say a bachar, a firstborn animal, which is a carbon. The Gemara will tell us that even if it already has a mum, has a blemish, and is unfit for being offered on the mizbeach, one may not add another mum to it. This is very similar to the case of processing chametz after it had been processed by somebody else. So it's the ongoing, continuous isser. Same thing with the bachar. Tanarban bachar she'ach zaydam. Okay, here's a case: a bachar is in danger. He fell ill. Too much blood. He's got to be treated by bloodletters or whatever. Makizin oisay es adam. So one is allowed to let out some blood, give him to lighten his load. Provided that the doctor, veterinarian, is careful not to puncture him in a place which would blemish him. Rashi says basically the entire body except for the ear, the eye, places which are delicate and would not roll back, and got to be careful. So they can release some blood, provided it does not generate a mum. They can't do hakazas hadam, but if it generates a mum. The Rameir allows you to do hakazas hadam, provided you're not going to generate a mum. Don't let the animal die. Even if it requires a mum, do it to save the animal. But you can't use that as an excuse to do the shechita in your backyard, because the halacha is that a bachar, which is a tam, which is unblemished, is processed like a carbon. If it has a mum, then you can just eat it, by doing regular shechita, which is much more, convenient, so to speak. So, even though we allow you to do the akadah hadam in a manner which generates a mum to save the animal, but you can't use that as an excuse to shecht that at home. You have to wait until he gets another mum by itself. Self-inflicted. You can't use this mum that was man-made to shecht the animal. Rav Shimon Omer, he says, look, your intention wasn't to permit the animal. You're trying to save the animal. So it's like davar she'ein miskaven. You're not intending to. So we treat it like a naturally occurring mum, and you can do the shechita based on the mum. Rabbi Omer, just the opposite, takes a very strict approach. He says, we don't want you getting involved here. Afilu meis, even if he's about to die, you can't do a hadam. Even if it's not going to generate a mum. Rashi brings the Gemara in Pesachim. You know why? Because the owner is so frazzled and anxious about saving the animal. He might not be selective. He'll just go boom. If we allow him to do the hakadosh hadam, he's not going to be careful, and he's going to make a mum. Okay, so we have several shittas. Rameir says you can do it, just avoid the mum. Chacham say even if it makes a mum, it's okay, as long as you don't use that as permission to shech the animal till there's another naturally occurring mum. Shimon says you can even do the shechita now. Rabbi Yehuda says hands off. Amar Chiba Amar V'yechna. Kol moedim. So now the Gemara will explain the machlokes between Rameh and the Chachamim, what the point of contention is, what they all agree on. Let's see. Hakol moedim. So first we start with a reference to other halachas, which are very similar, where it's sort of a recurring isser, a continuous, ongoing process. Hakol moedim all agree regarding a mincha. Mechametz achar mechametz shu chayiv. So Rashi points out, what's the connection? He says, look, this animal is in severe trouble. Life-threatening condition. Rashi calls it Ein lecha mum gadol mizeh. I mean, you can't have a greater mum than that. He's about to die. Right? And still we have this machlekes. Whether or not you're allowed to proceed, right? We'll get back to that in a second. So firstly, let's compare it to a similar case, the mincha, which is chametz. You have several steps in the process. It's already chametz. Look, I'm not making a chametz, but once I take this chametz and I form it, you take it and you bake it, we're all chayiv. So everybody who has a hand in developing the chametz, even though it's already chametz, but anybody that's involved in moving it along and developing it further is chayiv. Hakol moedim all agree, but mechametz achar mechametz shu chayiv, a fellow who's involved in the processing of the chametz, like the baking, after it was already formed, after it was kneaded, after everybody's shu chayiv. The pasuk says, "Loi say asa chametz, v'loi say afa chametz." Right? Don't make it chametz. Don't bake it chametz. As we learned yesterday, even though it was already made chametz, I didn't make it chametz. You made. Any involvement generates a new liability. Likewise, masaris achar masaris shu chayiv. If an animal was sterilized, his reproductive organs were damaged by one person, comes along the next person and aggravates it, he's also chayiv, even though the animal's already in that state of sirus. Tachsiv, how do we know that? That Mesar Zachar Mesar Yisrael chayiv. Tachsiv, umoch, v'chasas, v'nasa, v'karas, the pasuk describes different levels. One is umoch, crushing the organs, v'chasas, cut up, v'nasa, detached from the body, v'charas, and totally cut off. So the question is, imal karas u chayiv. Oh, karas means that the baits and the organs were cut, but Rashi says they left inside the sack, attached to the body. Imal karas u chayiv is chayiv for that, despite not having removed it. Al noisek lekoshkan, certainly noisek, which is completely removing it. Noisek is worse; it completely removes it. Certainly is chayiv. Why does the pasuk have to even mention noisek? To disallow this process on an animal. Once you're forbidding a lighter form of harm, certainly the more severe form, to teach us. So all the curse was done by Reuben. Comes along Shimon and does noisek is also chayv, because that aggravates it further, that takes it to another level. So any contribution to this process is asur and is chayv. So again, when it comes to the various processes of the chimutz, chayiv, sirus, chayiv, machlekes revolves around the bechor b'al mum, as we discussed. The question is regarding a carbon which already has a mum, like we explained, he's about to die because of his sickness. Comes along a fellow and does another mum to him through the hakazas hadam. Remember, Sarah, look, kol mum lo yeh boy. Kol mum lo yeh boy. All mums cannot be applied to a carbon. That's coming to cover even a case where the animal already has a mum. Adding to it, aggravating a situation is asa. Rabbanan sabri. So therefore the Rebbeir says, make sure that Yakazas Adam does not generate a mum. Okay, that was his restriction. Rabbanan sabri, Tami Yola. The next part of the pasuk says, look, don't make a mum. And it says, sorry, it's actually the words before. It says, Tamim yeh l'ratzon, kol mum lo yeh b'hay. Sure, don't affect a mum on what? On a carbon, which is tamim, which is unblemished. If it's tamim, you can't make a mum. But it has a mum. If it has a mum, you're allowed to. Add another mum, he's already blemished. Hence, the Rabbanan allow hakazas adam even if it generates a mum. What does Rameh do the Chachamim's phrase of the pasuk? Tamim yeh l'ratzon, holamote b'almum yikara. That's addressing a different case. A behemoth that was born a balas mum, born blemished. Right? So the bechor is born with a blemish, or in the case of a regular carbon, you will magdish it when it had a mum already. It never had a chance. It never experienced a state of unblemishedness. So in this case, there's no issur of adding a mum. However, in a case where it was a perfect carbon, then it got one blemish, you can't add another one. Says the Gemara, hold it. Balmum yikar, if it was initially balmum, dikla balmum, it's a piece of, it's a palm tree, it's a piece of wood. Of course, it's not even a carbon, it's just like any other hegdish possession. Of course you can blemish it. Blemish is something for a carbon. This is just a piece of wood. Rather, the pasuk Tamim Yelarotzen is come to exclude a different case. Psula Mikdashim, a carbon which was kaddish, and then something happened, they got a mum, and you redeemed it, Lachar B'Dyonim. Transfer the kedusha onto money, which we'll use to rebuy another carbon. Now you have this animal standing, which was formerly a carbon. So the pasuk has to say, look, it was a carbon, but it's no longer, and you're free to add a mum to it, no problem. I would think maybe not. Why? Perhaps I would think, since there are certain restrictions on the psula mikdashim, even if it's redeemed, you still have to treat it with respect. You can't. It's only good for consumption. You can't share its wool. You can't do work with it. Asiri begiza v'avodah. B'mumum namelitzri. Perhaps you can't generate a mum. Kamashmon comes the pasuk. Tamil Rotzen. Tamil Rotzen says only a proper carbon. Got to be protected from mum, but not a former carbon. Okay. So again, we have machlekes regarding a carbon which already has a mum. Can you add another one? Rabbana say yes. Tamim Yelarotzen. Only that one has to be protected, but not one which already has a mum. And Rameir uses that pasuk for something else. Rabbana nami yaksiv kol mum lo yebay. Now, what do Rabbana do with Rameir's pasuk? Kol mum lo yebay. The kol is coming to add something more than just standard. Well, that's coming for something else. Look at the sign is needed for the halacha in the following brisa. Kol mum lo yebay. Teaches us ainli ela shelo yehi by mum. So the lashon lo yeh is learned like lo yahaya. Don't generate a mum. You're not allowed to make a mum on an animal. Menayin, what about the cause? I can't directly do it. What about causation? What about arranging it? Menayin shelo yigram lo yalidei acher. Perhaps I can cause it by others. How do we know that's also not allowed? For instance, shelo yinech batzik oidvela. So you shouldn't put a piece of dough or a fig, a dried fig, al gabi oizen, on the bacher's ear to attract the the dog or something who come take a bite off his ear with the food. That the dog should come and grab it and injure the carbon and make it a mum. Tamalayimar kol mum. Kol covers even causation. Amar mum. Mum itself would mean don't directly do it. Vamar, it says kol mum to add even garama, even causation. Okay, but in any case, we're talking about an animal which is unblemished. But if it already has a mum, the Rabbanan hold there's no issur of adding another one. Hence, they allow you to do akaz hadam, even if it generates a mum. Okay, let's do a quick recap of today's daf. We have the lashon oisay by the soyer of the nasi of the chatas. This one is in tzafin, as opposed to what? The Gemara concludes, it's coming to require the mekabel. Sorry, it's coming to exclude the sheichet, so only the animals in tzafin, but not the sheichet is in tzafin. He can be standing with a long knife and reach over to do the shchita in tzafin. We spoke about the mincha which has turned chametz, so any involvement, lisha, aricha, afia, generates a separate lav. All agree on that. Same thing regarding sirus, any added element generates an isra lav. Regarding a carbon which is a tamim, of course you can't make a mum or cause a mum, but if it already has a mum, like if it's terribly ill, it's chazay dam, it's about to die. Here we have two shitas. Rameir says you can't do a mum either. He has a pasuk kol mum. Chacham say there's no isra of a mum in this case, provided you don't use that as an excuse to do the shechita at home. You have to wait for another mum to happen. We have two other shitas as well. Rabbi Shimon says it's davashen miskav and it's okay. Rabbi says don't touch the animal. We're afraid of playing games. Okay, so that's pretty much today's daf. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rab.